welcome. I'm Geeta Mohan and you're watching World Today. The big news coming in at this hour in the middle of this 90-day pause on tariffs between India and the United States of America. US Vice President J.D. Vance and his wife Usha Vance are likely to visit India between April 21st and 24th. The visit could coincide with US National Security Advisor Mike Waltz's visit. Apart from meeting Prime Minister Modi and other senior officials, Vance will be traveling to Jaipur and Agra. This comes at a time when US and India are working on a bilateral agreement which would ease tensions, trade tensions particularly, between the two countries. Meanwhile, tariff war escalates between USA and China to a new level. In response to a 145% tariff imposed on Beijing by White House, China slapped American goods with a 125% tariff. Beijing has also hinted it may not raise tariffs anymore as American products at current tariffs will be unattractive for the Chinese customers. In this heated tariff war, concerns remain, since the US and China are the world's #1 and #2 economies respectively. This could translate into a trade war, pushing global economy into a recession.
For a week, the markets across the world yo-yoed between red and green. But mostly it bled profusely. The US-China tariff war is relentless and many fear global recession fueled by trade war.
The escalating trade tensions between the United States and China pose a significant risk of a sharp contraction in their bilateral trade. Our preliminary projections suggest that merchandise trade between these two economies could decrease by as much as 80%. Further escalation becomes tantamount to a shutting off of bilateral trade between the two countries, a decoupling. The negative macroeconomic effects will not be confined to US and China alone, but will extend to other countries, especially the least developed nations.
What's more, the tariff war with China is escalating. This is a real problem. So the market is concerned that the trade war between the world's two largest economy powers, the US and China, will cause the global economy to fall into recession. This is real concern.
In the US, the tariffs are worrying many small business owners who rely heavily on goods made in China to stock their aisles.
Mostly everything, 90% comes from China, and obviously we are really concerned because as the president has announced, 125% tariff will double the price, even more than double the price of the product. So
people are less worried in Beijing in comparison.
Well, it certainly will have an impact on international trade as a whole. It's not too bad for our industry. We do commodities import. The US accounts for only 14% of China's import. So it will definitely have an impact. After all, the two economies are too large. So the impact is quite big. But it will also force China to conduct domestic reforms and will force China's various industries to reflect.
While the US president is interested in making a deal with his Chinese counterpart, China has started to navigate new landscapes. Chinese President Xi Jinping urged the EU to join hands with Beijing in resisting unilateral bullying by America.
Not long ago, I co-authored an article with Brazilian President Lula and South African President Ramaphosa, calling for support for multilateralism, the safeguarding of the common good of all humanity, an opposition to isolationism, unilateralism and decoupling.
Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez is in Beijing trying to forge closer economic and political ties between the countries and the EU at the same time. The European Union and China agreed to look into setting minimum prices of Chinese-made electrical vehicles instead of tariffs imposed by the EU last year. In late March, Chinese Commerce Minister Wang Wentao met his counterparts from Japan and South Korea before they issued a statement recognizing the need for cooperation to address emerging challenges and pledging to enhance cooperation on supply chains. The US-China tariff war heats up and the fissures in the global economy widen with each move. Bureau Report, India Today.
The two economic powerhouses of the world, United States and China, $50 trillion in GDP. In an unprecedented face-off, each waiting for the other to blink. It started with this announcement. Well, the announcement certainly was about tariffs, counter-tariffs, and then retaliatory tariffs by both sides. Listen in.
China will be speaking to China probably over the next 24 hours.
On fentanyl in China, President Trump.
We don't want fentanyl coming into our country. Now, we had another big thing, speaking of China. China's involved with the Panama Canal. They won't be for long. And that's the way it has to be. What I have discussed is we'll have some good meetings with China. We have meetings planned, and we'll see what happens. But that was just an opening salvo. If we can't make a deal with China, then the tariffs will be very, very substantial.
Since then, it's been a series of tit-for-tat tariff announcements and other retaliatory measures against each other. US announced a 10% baseline tariff effective 4th of February. On the 10th, China responded with tariffs on US coal, LNG, oil and agriculture machinery. The same day, US hiked tariffs on Chinese goods by another 10%. 2 days later, China retaliated by penalizing imports of American farm products and slapping export controls on US companies. Earlier this month, US announced 34% additional reciprocal tariffs on China. It also closed a loophole which allowed imports of cheap Chinese goods. China hit back with its own 34% duties, export controls on rare earth materials, and more restrictions on US companies. Tensions ratcheted up on the 7th of April with US threatening another 50% tariffs on China, who termed it as blackmail. A day after, the 50% tariffs kicked in and China reacted with increasing 84% tariffs on American goods and more restrictions on US companies. The next day, US raised its own tariffs to a whopping 125%.
China wants to make a deal. They just don't know how quite to go about it. You know, it's one of those things they don't know how quite. They're proud people. And President Xi's a proud man. I know him very well. And they don't know quite how to go about it, but they'll figure it out. They're in the process of figuring it out, but they want to make a deal.
But that wasn't the end of this tariff war. When Donald Trump announced that China faced 125% tariffs, he did not include a 20% tariff on China tied to its role in fentanyl production. In effect, White House clarified that the revised tariff on Chinese imports stands at 145%. China responded with 125% tariff on US goods on the 11th of April.
What happens with China? We would love to be able to work a deal. They've really taken advantage of our country for a long period of time. They've ripped us off beyond anybody, nobody. How people stood for it, sitting in my position, is not even believable. And we're talking about many presidents, not just a couple. But they did, and all we're doing is putting it back in shape. We're resetting the table. And I'm sure that we'll be able to get along very well. I have great respect for President Xi. He's been, in a true sense, he's been a friend of mine for a long period of time. And I think that we'll end up working out something that's very good for both countries. I look forward to it.
This is a great time to buy. This is what a post by Donald Trump hours before he announced that he was pausing reciprocal tariffs for 90 days. The news sent markets soaring. Was it a casual coincidence or a well-timed call? Did Trump already know he will be pausing tariffs? Take a look at this report.
It's been an incredible few days on Wall Street. The week has seen stocks buffeted by a perfect storm of news, views and speculation. Traders and investors have been sent to the brink by President Donald Trump's tariff policy, scrambling to figure out strategies and calming clients as trillions were wiped off stock market values. On Monday, a rumor of a pause in tariffs added more than $3.5 trillion to the US market cap. Within minutes, the markets were down $2 trillion after the rumors were quashed. After a big fall on Tuesday, the markets again shot up on Wednesday afternoon after the announcement of a 90-day pause in tariffs. The major US indices oscillated more than 10% in trade. What's raising hackles is this social media post by Trump, less than 3 hours before the big announcement, prompting calls for a probe into stock market manipulation by Donald Trump.
So at 9:37 a.m., Donald Trump put on Truth Social, "This is a great time to buy," 3 exclamation points, all caps. Then a handful of hours later, he announces a 90-day pause on all tariffs that he's been threatening except for China. So I'm curious why Donald Trump thinks that he can just post things like this on Truth Social. This is market manipulation at its worst.
This video added fuel to fire. It shows Trump boasting that Charles Schwab, standing beside him in White House, had made $2.5 billion in a day. Trump's social media platform Truth Social had recently signed a financial services agreement with Schwab, adding volume to calls for a market manipulation probe.
Right before Donald Trump declared that some of his tariffs were off again, he sent out a message to his billionaire buddies. He posted, "This is a great time to buy," in all caps. Was that market manipulation? Was it corruption in plain sight? We need an independent investigation into market manipulation because Americans need to know whether President Trump or anyone in his administration manipulated the market to benefit their donors, all while they are working for the American people and while small businesses and those working families are paying a price.
Meanwhile, the world's top 10 richest billionaires saw their combined net worth increase by $135 billion. Elon Musk saw the largest gain, with his net worth rising by $36 billion. Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg followed with a $26 billion increase. Bureau Report, Business Today TV.
Trump seems to have given a 90-day breather to 75 nations for his dreaded tariffs. However, China wasn't so lucky as it got slapped with 125% tariff. And now, the fight's not just on trade floors, it's on TikTok and on Twitter. From viral AI memes mocking post-tariff America to Russia's cheeky online jabs, the backlash is turning digital. So how is this trade war unfolding on social media? Here's our next report.
Trump's tariff has set the world on fire.
So, if you look at that...
But amid ongoing uncertainty and pushback, Trump announced a 90-day pause on the reciprocal tariffs on imports from almost 75 countries.
I don't think he'll allow that.
However, one country that wasn't spared was China. Trump imposed a 125% tariff on China. He argues that Beijing lacks respect for world markets. But now it seems like China is exploring every possible avenue to retaliate, including memes. An AI-generated video mocking American workers in a post-tariff world has gone viral. The video shows overweight employees in a textile factory appearing exhausted and depressed. The 32-second clip portrays how the world will look like as a result of Donald Trump's tariffs. The origin of the clip is not clear, but it was published on Chinese TikTok accounts. Amid all the cacophony, Russia seems to be enjoying the tariff war from a distance. This comes as the Russian embassy in Kenya dropped a hilarious meme on Twitter. Taking a jibe at the tariff fiasco, the meme depicts how Russia is watching the world fighting against Trump's tariffs. Russia's exemption from US tariffs has sparked significant interest. However, Trump had recently issued threats of additional sanctions on Russian oil if Moscow doesn't end the Ukraine war. With China's viral AI memes and Russia's taunt, the tariff tension is brewing. With Trump calling the shots, experts say the trade war will only intensify in the coming days. Bureau Report, India Today.
Elon Musk and Donald Trump were once on the same page. Then came the tariffs. And then came 125% tariff on China alone. With Tesla heavily reliant on China for both sales and production, the fallout could be massive. So will Trump's tariff stall Musk's momentum in the global market? Find out.
Elon Musk has been one of the biggest cheerleaders of Donald Trump. But when it comes to tariffs, Musk has a frown on his face. Donald Trump's tariff war seems to have driven a wedge between their friendship. This comes on the heels of Trump jaw-dropping 125% tariff on China. With China being Tesla's largest market, this tariff could have significant repercussions. Over the past few days, Musk has been sparring publicly with Trump's trade advisor, Peter Navarro. Many reports even say that Musk personally appealed to Trump to reverse the sweeping tariff plan. Tariffs are bad for business, especially for the businesses of the world's richest man. Tesla's stock has fallen 17% since Trump's reciprocal tariffs announcement. Tesla's Gigafactory in Shanghai has been pivotal in meeting the soaring demand for electric vehicles in China. The new tariff threatens to disrupt this growth trajectory. This potentially leads to increased prices for consumers and squeezed profit margins for the company. This tariff could compel them to rethink their supply chain strategies, possibly expedite plans to diversify manufacturing locations. Chinese consumers who have been enthusiastic adopters of Tesla vehicles may now face higher prices. As the trade tensions escalate, Tesla faces critical decisions on how to navigate these turbulent waters. With Rudra Ashish Kanjilal, Bureau Report, India Today Global.
Let's take a look at how US President Donald Trump is reigning on social media yet again.
Whatever President Donald Trump does seems to be becoming the talk of the internet. In this viral moment, during a meeting when Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu tried to sit down, Trump made a quick viral gesture to assist him. The moment instantly captured everybody's attention, showcasing Trump's thoughtful and spontaneous response. Donald Trump has become the new Pookie face for the internet. Donald Trump's arm wrestling moment during his meet with coal workers has now become the talk of the social media. Donald Trump's rants about low ether pressure is going viral on social media. Trump signed an order to roll back conservation regulations enacted by the Biden administration to limit pressure for shower heads and other water appliances, calling the rules ridiculous. But what went viral was how he poked former President Joe Biden, saying nobody wants a low-flow shower head. He told officials and the journalists present that he likes to take a nice shower to take care of my beautiful hair.
In my case, I like to take a nice shower to take care of my beautiful hair. I have to stand under the shower for 15 minutes till it gets wet. It comes out drip, drip, drip. It's ridiculous.
A Let Him Cook post featuring official portraits of US President Donald Trump and Vice President JD Vance shared by the White House on X has sparked a wave of memes, questions and curious reactions from social media users. Now the internet is going crazy with its Let Him Cook memes.
In a major breakthrough, 26/11 Mumbai terror attacks conspirator Tahawwur Rana has been remanded to 18-day NIA custody after his extradition from the United States of America. NIA has begun grilling Tahawwur Rana. 3 sets of questionnaires have been prepared by NIA according to sources. Tahawwur Rana is being questioned on his location on the day of terror attacks and why he was there. Rana is also being questioned on whom he met during his stay in India and why he sent Headley to India on a fake visa, among other questions. The probe is led by DIG NIA, Jaya Roy. She also had gone to the United States of America to bring the man to India. Sources say that priority in the initial probe is to find out who is Rana's handler in Pakistan, who was funding him, who are the sleeper cells, who are his business partners, who was he funding in India? Who all Headley contacted in India and to whom was the money given? US also made a big revelation. After the attacks were complete, Rana allegedly told Headley that Indians deserved it. In an intercepted conversation with Headley, US revealed that Rana allegedly commended the 9 Lashkar-e-Taiba terrorists who had been killed committing the attacks and said they should be given Pakistan's award for gallantry in battle. Rana landed at Delhi's Palam Air Base around 6:20 p.m. on Thursday. He was taken to Patiala House Court under tight security, where the NIA said his custodial interrogation is key to uncovering the full extent of the 2008 conspiracy.